A friend of mine went through a brutal breakup last year. He had been with his girlfriend for 3 years, and to him, she was everything. They had built a life together, shared memories, and he genuinely believed she was the one. But one day, out of nowhere, she sat him down and told him she needed space. A week later, she was with someone else. He was devastated. Instead of walking away with dignity, he did what most men do. He begged. He sent her long emotional texts, apologizing for things he didn't even do wrong. He promised he would change, that he would be a better man, that he couldn't imagine life without her. When she ignored him, he resorted to desperate tactics, showing up at places she might be, stalking her social media, even trying to talk to her friends to find out if she missed him. But she didn't. She moved on, and the more he chased, the more repelled she became. I remember sitting with him one night as he downed his third drink, looking completely broken. He looked at me and asked, "Why doesn't she care? Why is it so easy for her to move on?" And that's when it hit me. It wasn't that she didn't care. It was that he had given her all the power. The moment he made her the center of his world, he lost his own value. He had stopped being the man she once admired, the one who had confidence, purpose, and direction. That night, I told him something simple but powerful. She will only regret leaving you if you stop making her the reason for your existence. If he truly wanted to turn things around, it wasn't about getting her back. It was about getting himself back. Because no woman, no matter how amazing she is, will respect a man who puts her on a pedestal while losing himself in the process. This is where most men go wrong. They think love is about proving their worth to a woman. But true power, the kind that makes a woman actually miss you, comes from mastering yourself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to shift the balance, how to regain control, and how to make sure that if she ever regrets leaving, it's because you became a man she could never replace. After that night, my friend decided to try something different. No more texts, no more chasing. He went completely silent. But here's the thing. Most men misunderstand the no contact rule. They see it as a trick, a way to make her miss them. They think, if I just ignore her for 30 days, she'll come running back. But that's not how it works. No contact is not about her. It's about you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the core of no contact. It's not about waiting for her to come back. It's about taking back control over your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions. When a woman leaves you, your instinct is to fight against reality. You replay every conversation, trying to figure out what went wrong. You want to fix things, to convince her she made a mistake. But the hard truth? You cannot control her decisions. You can only control your response to them. No contact is the first step in training yourself to accept what is outside your control and focus only on what you can change, yourself. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a storm. The rain is pouring, the wind is howling, and all you can think about is how much you wish the storm would stop. But you can't control the storm. You can only find shelter, keep yourself safe, and wait it out. No contact is that shelter. It protects you from making impulsive mistakes, from humiliating yourself, from letting emotions take over. It forces you to sit with your own discomfort and grow from it. But here's where most men fail. They treat no contact as a game. They count the days, they check her social media, they hope for signs that she misses them. This is not real no contact. Real no contact means you stop looking for an outcome and start focusing on yourself. It means shifting your mindset from "will she come back?" to "how can I become the man who doesn't care if she does?" Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." If you see no contact as a punishment, you will suffer through it. But if you see it as an opportunity to rebuild, you will emerge stronger. The goal is not to manipulate her into regretting her decision. The goal is to make yourself so focused on your own growth that, if she ever does regret leaving, it's because she sees a version of you she never expected. After a few weeks of no contact, my friend started to see things differently. At first, he was just waiting, counting the days, hoping she'd reach out. But nothing happened, and that's when he realized something. He wasn't actually changing. He was just pretending to move on, while still being stuck in the past. This is where most men fail. They think no contact is enough, that if they just disappear for long enough, she'll suddenly come back, realizing her mistake. But the truth is, women don't regret losing a man just because he stops talking to them. They regret losing a man when he becomes someone they can't replace. Seneca once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." If your ex ever regrets leaving, it won't be because of luck. It will be because of who you've become. And this is where the real work begins. There are two things you need to fix. First, your mindset and emotional strength. If your breakup left you feeling lost, anxious, or insecure, that's a sign of deeper issues. And those issues existed long before she left. Maybe you were too dependent on her for your happiness. Maybe you lacked confidence in yourself. Maybe you feared being alone. Whatever it is, now is the time to face it. A man who is truly strong is not shaken by a woman's decision to leave. He understands that relationships come and go, but his purpose, his values, and his sense of self remain unshaken. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have within you the power to rise above any situation or struggle." That power doesn't come from getting her back. It comes from mastering yourself. So instead of obsessing over her, ask yourself, what areas of my life have I neglected? What fears have I been avoiding? What kind of man do I want to become, independent of whether she comes back or not? Once you start focusing on these questions, something interesting happens. The pain of losing her starts to fade, because now your mind is occupied with something far more important, your own evolution. Second, your physical and lifestyle transformation. Let's be brutally honest. Many men, after getting comfortable in a relationship, let themselves go. They stop hitting the gym, they lose ambition, they stop dressing well, and the worst part, they don't even realize it. When my friend looked in the mirror after a month of no contact, he saw someone he didn't recognize. His confidence was shot. His body looked weaker, his eyes had lost their fire. And he knew, if he wanted to regain control, he had to start with the man in the mirror. So he committed to a plan. He hit the gym 5 times a week. He fixed his diet and his wardrobe, getting rid of the sloppy clothes he used to wear. He picked up new skills, boxing, public speaking, even learning a new language. And guess what? He didn't do any of this for her. He did it because he realized something powerful. A high-value man is not defined by whether a woman stays or leaves. He is defined by his own standards. Now let's pause for a second. You might be thinking, but how will she know I've changed if I don't tell her? The answer is simple. She will find out. Women are naturally curious, especially when they suspect a man has moved on. But here's the trick. The best way to make her notice is not to show off, but to become so different that even mutual friends start talking about it. After weeks of no contact, my friend had completely transformed. He was hitting the gym consistently, picking up new skills, and developing a new sense of self-respect. He felt different, and for the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about her every waking moment. But then, something interesting happened. Out of nowhere, she started liking his old photos on social media. A few days later, she viewed his Instagram story. And then, a mutual friend casually mentioned that she had asked about him. Here's the key. He never once reached out to her. He didn't post anything dramatic or try to make her jealous. He simply disappeared, focused on improving himself, and let the power of mystery do the work for him. Most men, after a breakup, make the mistake of trying too hard to prove they've changed. They flood social media with gym selfies, motivational quotes, and pictures of them having fun at parties. But women see right through that. If you're trying too hard to make her notice, it means you still care too much. And if she knows you still care, she doesn't feel the urgency to miss you. The best way to make her wonder about you is to disrupt her expectations. If you used to be active on social media, go silent. If you used to text mutual friends about her, stop asking. If you used to be the guy always available, become the man who is suddenly out of reach. This subtle shift forces her to ask a critical question. Why isn't he chasing me? Has he moved on? Is he seeing someone else? And once that thought enters her mind, it's hard to ignore. Women are wired to notice shifts in energy. When a man suddenly becomes more confident, more distant, and more focused, it triggers something powerful in her psychology, the fear of loss. If she senses that you're genuinely moving forward, she will start to question her decision. But here's the crucial part. She has to feel like she's losing you, not because you're playing games, but because you are genuinely leveling up. One of the most effective ways to make sure she hears about your transformation is through social proof. This doesn't mean staging photos with other women or acting like a player. It means making real changes in your life that other people naturally talk about. Maybe a friend posts a picture of you at a business event, looking sharp and confident. Maybe someone shares a story about you training at the boxing gym, pushing yourself harder than ever. These little moments, when they're organic and real, spread like wildfire. And trust me, they will get back to her. But here's the part most men don't understand. When she finally reaches out, when she sends that "Hey, how have you been?" text, your response is just as important as your silence. If you reply instantly, overly excited, or act like you've been waiting for this moment, you destroy the entire dynamic. Instead, your mindset should be this: she is not the prize. My growth is the prize. My new life is the prize. And if she wants to be a part of it, she has to prove that she's worth my time. This is the ultimate power shift. The moment you stop viewing her as the one in control and instead start seeing yourself as the one with options, everything changes. And the irony? The more you embrace this mindset, the more she will chase you. After a few months of no contact, my friend had changed completely. He was stronger, more confident, and no longer the broken man he once was. But something still wasn't right. Deep down, he was still measuring his progress based on whether or not she noticed. And that was the final mistake. He was still letting her hold power over him. Most men focus on self-improvement only to get their ex back. But if you're still doing it for her, you're still controlled by her. The real transformation happens when you stop asking, "How can I make her regret leaving?" and start asking, "Was she even right for me in the first place?" Seneca once said, "If you judge, investigate." Instead of idealizing the past, take a hard look at your relationship. Did she truly respect you, or did she just tolerate you? Did she support your growth, or did she hold you back? Did she add value to your life, or were you just afraid to lose her? Most men put their ex on a pedestal, forgetting the red flags. But now, you are no longer the man seeking her validation. You are the man deciding whether she even meets your new standards. When my friend embraced this mindset, something shifted. He stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering if she missed him, and ironically, that's when she finally reached out. But here's the key. He didn't jump at the opportunity, because by this point, it wasn't about her anymore. It was about him. In the next section, we'll talk about when and if you should even consider breaking no contact. Because at this stage, the real question isn't, is she coming back? But rather, do I even care anymore? After months of silence, self-improvement, and a complete mindset shift, you might find yourself at a crossroads. Maybe she finally reaches out. Maybe a mutual friend tells you she's been asking about you. Or maybe you start wondering, should I be the one to break no contact? But here's the truth. If you have to ask, you're probably not ready. The biggest mistake men make is breaking no contact too soon, before they've truly moved on. They tell themselves they've changed, but deep down, they're still hoping for her validation. If you still feel anxious about whether she responds, if you still feel a need to prove something to her, you are not ready. The only time you should consider breaking no contact is when you genuinely don't care about the outcome. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." If her response still has power over your emotions, you haven't mastered yourself yet. A man who is truly in control doesn't chase, he attracts. And if she senses that you are still emotionally invested, she will know she still has control. So, when are you actually ready to break no contact? When you no longer feel desperate to get her back. When you genuinely believe you can live a fulfilling life without her. When your self-worth is no longer tied to whether she wants you. This is where true strength lies, not in getting her back, but in becoming a man who doesn't need her back. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her second-guess her decision. But let's say you reach that point. You feel calm, confident, and unbothered. If you do decide to reach out, how should you do it? That's what we'll cover next. The right way to break no contact, if necessary. Let's say you've reached a point where you genuinely don't care about the outcome. You've built a life that excites you, you've regained your confidence, and her presence or absence no longer defines your worth. If you choose to break no contact now, it's not because you're chasing her. It's because you're in control, and you simply want to see if she's still worth your time. Most men make the mistake of reaching out the wrong way. They send weak, predictable messages like, "Hey, how have you been?" Or try to rekindle emotions with, "I was just thinking about that trip we took together." But this kind of approach often backfires. If you're still trying to remind her of the past, you're telling her that you haven't fully moved on. And if she senses that, she won't feel the need to chase you. The best way to break no contact is to be direct, confident, and emotionally neutral. A simple message like, "Hey, I'm grabbing coffee this weekend. Let me know if you want to catch up," is more powerful than any emotional text. It's casual, but it also signals that you're moving forward with or without her. And here's the important part. You must be completely okay with no response. If she doesn't reply, you don't follow up. You don't get upset. You simply continue living your life. Because if you've truly done the work, her response, or lack of it, doesn't affect your value. If she agrees to meet, keep it light. You're not there to prove anything. You're not there to beg or rekindle past emotions. You're there to see if she even fits into the man you've become. If she hasn't changed, if she still carries the same toxic habits, then you walk away. Because at this point, it's not about winning her back. It's about making sure she's worth your time. And that's where the real power shift happens. When you go from being the man chasing her to being the man she has to impress. That's when she starts to regret leaving. But by then, you may not even care. In the final section, we'll talk about this power shift, why it happens, and why in the end, you may realize that she was never the one who got away, but the one who made space for something better. By now, something interesting has happened. You've done the work. You've transformed into a version of yourself that no longer needs external validation. You're confident, focused, and in control of your own life. And suddenly, out of nowhere, she starts showing signs of regret. Maybe she starts liking your posts. Maybe she sends a random text, something meaningless like, "Hey, I saw something today that reminded me of you." Maybe she even directly says she misses you. At this moment, many men make a critical mistake. They see her regret as a victory. They think, yes, she finally realizes what she lost. But here's the truth. If you still care this much about her reaction, you haven't fully evolved. The real victory is not in her regret. The real victory is in your indifference. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And this is the ultimate power shift. You are now the one in control, because you are no longer emotionally tied to her decision. Whether she regrets leaving or not, whether she wants you back or not, your life is already complete without her. This is the moment where you get to make a decision, not from desperation, not from loneliness, but from strength. Does she still fit into the man you've become? Has she grown, or is she still the same person who walked away? If she hasn't changed, why would you take her back? If she only wants you now because you're more attractive, more successful, more independent, how does that benefit you? Most men never reach this point. They spend their lives chasing, waiting, hoping for women to recognize their worth. But the men who truly win, they become so valuable, so fulfilled in their own path, that it no longer matters who stays or who leaves. And that is the Stoic way. To build yourself into a man of such strength and purpose that no rejection, no breakup, no loss can shake your foundation. Because in the end, it was never about her, it was always about you. So now you have a choice. Do you take her back, or do you simply smile, nod, and walk away, knowing that she was never the one who got away, but the one who made room for something better?